Hey everybody, happy Friday, May 20th. Time for our third week of May trivia review. Looking at the questions from this week, we had a really fun week. I think we finally kind of started to hit our stride with what these weekly quizzes ultimately could and should look like for Water Cooler. Once again, I'm Eli Robinson. I'm the Chief Trivia Officer here at Water Cooler. You can follow me on TikTok, Chief Trivia Officer. So let's take a look at this week's quiz. First things, just to kind of level set on where we ended up. We had about 700 users take the quiz this week, so pretty good statistical significance on trying to understand performance and how everybody how these questions really panned out. So we're gonna do one question at a time this week. Give us a little bit more time to talk about each one. Dive into what we actually saw, how we wrote the questions, etc. So question number one, according to the National Gardening Association, far and away the most common food grown in home gardens is what Caprese salad ingredient? So, of course, the correct answer is tomatoes. 85% correct. This was a really surprising not 95% pluser. We ended up rewriting the question a couple times. Our quizmaster, John Paul, was the one who kind of recommended the Caprese salad cue, and it really got to people. Basil was far and away the most common incorrect answer. And I think that people kind of tricked themselves. Yes, technically basil is a food, although I don't think in the spirit of what it is that we were looking for. You also see in the picture that we included with the question that it was, we were by tomato wiring for the tomatoes. So this was one of those where we kind of got in our way a little bit. As you guys know, we like to start with particularly straightforward and easy questions, and ultimately just a little bit surprised that this one was this low. But yeah, this was intelligent, very analytical people might have overthought this one when really tomatoes was the correct answer. All right, number two, in the world of appropriate ticker symbols, MRNA on the NASDAQ represents which biotechnology company and vaccine developer who used mRNA technology to compete against Pfizer-BioNTech to bring a product to mitigate COVID-19 to market? So pretty straightforward question here. We wanted to make these first ones, as I said, pretty straightforward. 96% correct. Of course, the answer is Moderna. The thing that I would just kind of point out here is that because Pfizer it's not actually a duopoly, but in the U.S. because Pfizer and Moderna were far and away the most common, by putting Pfizer in the question, you kind of allow people to block off that part of their mind. So they don't actually have to think about whether or not Pfizer is the answer. And that's how you get to such a high percentage correct for Moderna. All right, question number three. The origin for a phrase in English meaning when a show, quote, reaches a point at which far-fetched events are included merely for the sake of novelty, indicative of a decline in quality, comes from a 1977 episode of Happy Days when the Fonz jumps over what animal while on water skis? So this question just stunned me, as I was under the kind of understanding that the phrase jump the shark was just something that people know. I feel like jump the shark is something that is commonly used in the vernacular. However, I was wrong. We were expecting a 90% plus rate on this, and it was only 67% correct. So a couple things that are going on here. Number one, I guess Happy Days is a little bit older at this point, and so people being familiar with the show is probably not that high relative to what we thought. And then when you see the assortment of marine life as wrong answers, a lot of whale, fish, dolphin, etc., that's kind of indicative that people were really stretching, right? They're kind of okay, I have no idea. So what animal is in water? And when you see a lot of wrong answers like that, that's how you know that you probably missed a clue, right? We probably missed some way to cue people that it was shark, because they were looking into the clue to try to figure out what it was. And we'll show you one a little bit later where that people missed it. the clue in the question, but in this one it was just kind of like, wow, like very surprised that the answer was this low, but jumped the shark. Question number 4. This guy can go in multiple directions. Thank you very much. Of course, an homage to One Direction, the band he used to be in. May 20th, 2022 marks the release of Harry's House, the third solo album from what British rocker, recently seen at Coachella with Lizzo and Shania Twain. So for this question, 93% very happy with it. You kind of want to, the question is, how do you turn this question away from a you know it or you don't, right? And there's like a couple different ways to do it, right? So like one is by the multiple direction thing, you're cueing one direction. We're literally putting the guy's first name in the question, right? This is probably the most common, or the most popular clue or important clue here. That's like Harry's House. It's like now I'm like looking for popular Harry's, British rocker. We have a photo. So like we're doing everything we can on this question to try to get the answer as high as possible, and we did a good job. 93% is about where we would have wanted this one to be. All right, question number 5. Talk about a reformer. There's a clue. What P word is the last name of 20th century German physical trainer Joseph, who invented and named after himself a type of mind-body exercise that requires core stability? Okay, so anytime that you go with this kind of cluing, what P word, the first thing that you guys would be appreciate to hear is that like we get a lot of answers that don't start with P, which is really funny to me, given that we're providing a condition that you have to meet as a question, as a question answerer, but that's beside the point. But that clue should have basically ruled out, 98% of all the words in the English language. I thought the reformer clue was actually a good one, although if you think about it, it might be a little too inside. So a reformer is a machine that you use when you do Pilates, which is the, or a machine you can use when you do Pilates, which is the answer to the question. And I think that the reality about that clue was that it doesn't really bring anybody else into the game, right? So it's like if you don't have that, you just take that away and you ask this question. It's almost like everyone who's going to get this is already going to get this, right? And so when we're including additional cluing like that, one of the reasons you want to do it is to increase the sphere of people who could get the question right. And this one, it just wasn't particularly effective. We got a lot of plank, Joseph Plank. So I get the point of like, yes, a plank is a type of exercise that one can do, perhaps even within Pilates. I guess it could be a mind-body exercise, so like kudos to people who actually guess plank. It's probably the best wrong answer, but like I said, ultimately the answer is Pilates. All right, question number 6. Not to be outdone by their intra-species competitors Alvin, Simon, and Theodore, the upcoming Rescue Rangers will mark the big screen return of what non-stripper chipmunk duo? So in this situation, it's just kind of a really classic intersection of pop culture and current events. Movie coming out this weekend, I believe, is The Rescue Rangers. Chippendale are the correct ones. You see the stripper, like that probably would have confused some people. Why would we include the word stripper? But like Chippendales are obviously the male dancers. The other thing that you want to do here when you're writing the question is you're putting the most common wrong answer into the answer, right? So it's like by putting Alvin, Simon, and Theodore into the question, you're ruling out what most people would think the wrong answer would be. So you're like, animated chipmunks, it must be Alvin and the Chipmunks. Believe it or not, we actually still had people that answered Alvin and the Chipmunks, which makes sense because like that's the way your brain works, right? You're like, I know one group of animated chipmunks. This one actually made me very happy because I hadn't seen much marketing about the movie, and then after we asked this question, it kind of got released to the world. I heard a Spotify ad about the movie, which is like really, when we think about being water cooler, a lot of it is about kind of trying to figure out what people are talking about, so that really made me happy. All right, question number 7. Alaska and Hawaii don't share land borders with any other U.S. states. Almost as stingy is what U.S. state that only shares a land border with one other state. So we actually made this question harder, which I'm glad that we did. John Paul, our quizmaster, had recommended that we clue the term northeastern to kind of like give people more of a chance to get it right. I think that in this situation, when you're talking about Northeastern, we would have guessed about a 50% correct rate without the word Northeastern. So the fact that it's 74% correct without it is like really impressive. I thought that this question would be very hard. Geography is oftentimes a category to kind of stump our question answers. I do want to call out that we had absolutely a fantastic correct answer this week. So I want to call out, the woman said, I don't know, Maine, I'm absolutely terrible at geography. Can you ask a math question instead? And so what you have here is, like, in some ways, the perfect right answer, which is we're looking to write questions that may be difficult, that may be tricky, but we never want to be what I would call unfair. And so this woman from Strongbridge, a company, basically was like, hey, like, I'm bad at this, I don't know this, but I'm going to throw out an answer. And I find that if we can do more of this, we're going to be very, very happy. So Marianne, I don't know if you'll ever see this this video, but like, kudos to you for first of all not saying I don't know or I don't care, but like actually venturing a guess, and way to go for getting this one right. All right, here's your queuing gone wrong. So on number 8, a hallmark of 70s automobile design was a small fixed window found behind the rear side window in cars with vinyl roofs. Without being too much of a diva, tell me what type of music inspired its name. All right, so here's a few things that we want to do with these questions. As we get down to the end, you guys know that we like to ask questions that are a little bit harder, really start to separate the pack. So the first thing is, like, we don't know how many people know what an opera window is. Like, that's just true. Like, I didn't even know what an opera window was. And ultimately, one would imagine, because this is a 70s question, that like the more older you are, the more likely you are to get this one right. But so the first question is, like, we don't even know what the baseline is. But then you really see something fascinating in how many people missed the queuing without being too much of a diva. Like, so we got Motown, disco, rock and roll, punk. Like, we got literally every like type of music answer to this. And I wonder, like, if this is where it like becomes good, like just like becoming a quiz taker and like getting more conditioned to what it is that we do, like without being too much of a diva. Some people probably found that as a giveaway, right? Like a diva, like I guess theoretically you could use the term diva in other music, and I'd be interested, for y'all to kind of chime in how you feel about that. But it's like the term diva is generally associated with female leads in an opera, and so there's kind of like a few shots that you had at this, right? You could have just known it, right? Which some percentage of people did, but then like without being too much of a diva, so many people missed that or blew right by it. So we try to be clever in the way that we clue the questions. So in the future, and we think about it, like I think people will get better at understanding like how to read these things, looking for the right answer. All right, question number 9, and this one was a real doozy for people. What is the only letter in Scrabble that has a score of 5? Hint: you won't find the letter anywhere in this question. So our quizmaster John Paul really loved this one. So there's kind of 2 ways to get this, right? The first way is you just know it, right? Or the second thing is like, I should try to figure out what letters aren't in this clue. And if you look at it, right, and so I did the work for everybody, it's G, J, K, M, P, Q, X, and Z. So you take 26 letters, and now you have an 8 out of 26 chance to get it right. And 1 out of 8 chance to get it right. The math on that was really bad. So when you have 1 out of 8 chance to get it right, the regret that I have when we're writing this question is I prefer to have set boundaries for people so you could understand what tile scores in Scrabble were. That's our mistake. We'll do better in the future. So I would have preferred the phrase with A as 1 as Z as 10, right? Which kind of like sets up the range by which you're actually, A is like a very, very common letter, Z is a very uncommon letter, so like what is it with 5? Some people would have caught that, other people wouldn't. The other thing I'll say, going back to like the idea of like, you'd be surprised, like a lot of people guessed answers that were not G, J, K, M, P, Q, X, or Z. which is kind of shocking, right? It's the same thing. It's like, why are you not, like, we're giving this away. Like, it's one of these 8 letters. Would have expected this to be a little bit higher. I think we kind of dropped the ball a little bit on the way that we wrote the question. But moving forward, we'll kind of think about that and how we set boundaries and help keep people along. And finally, question number 10. It's been a big month for Anna Wintour. She was at the helm of the annual Met Gala. Anna, the biography, was released on May 3rd, and she's still the editor of what stylish fashion and lifestyle magazine? So a few things about this. The first thing I'll say is, oh, by the way, I don't know if I said last one, the correct answer was K. I might have just totally missed that. Sorry about that. So Anna Wintour. I did not know that Anna Wintour was as much in the zeitgeist as she was, as evidenced by an 82% correct. The correct answer is Vogue, of course. Like, she, I guess, has, like, what we learned from this has, like, really transcended into, like, things that everyone knows. Because, like, the editor, like, it's like, name any other editor of any other magazine, and I doubt, like, I can't think of an editor of a magazine. So this was, like, really shocking, like a truly shocking reality. Kudos to her and her branding team. I would have never, I wanted this question to be difficult. If you think about the additional cluing, right, so the Met Gala, so it's, like, kind of unlikely, like, I looked at some of the branding after this for the Met Gala, like, very little of it is, like, actually branded as Vogue. It's just, like, the Met Gala. Anna, the biography, has not, like, that's just repeating the clue of Anna Wintour. So, like, you would theoretically be, like, stylish fashion and lifestyle magazine, and the reality is there's a lot of them. Cosmopolitan was the most common wrong answer. I looked how Cosmo is branded. It's branded as a fashion and entertainment magazine, which isn't that different than a fashion and lifestyle magazine, but, like, I guess perhaps there's something different there. But, like, kudos to America, and really we learned that this woman, like, this is a, like, shocking type of correct answer for how little cluing there was in the question. So those were the 10 questions here in week number 3. Once again, I am the Chief Trivia Officer, Eli Robinson, here at Water Cooler Trivia. You can always drop us a comment, a like, a question. Love to hear what you have to think. And always come play with us here at Water Cooler Trivia. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Bye-bye.